Thank you very much, Mr. Godden, Chairperson of the session. Ladies and gentlemen, the third Global Conference on Agriculture, Food Security and Climate Change is definitely happening. And I think we need a round of applause for that. Chairperson, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, senior representatives of government partners and organizations, honored guests, members from the NGO sector. I'm not going to give this protocol-observed speech, but most importantly, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, South Africa is indeed pleased to be hosting this third Global Conference on Agriculture, Food Security and Climate Change. Following on the previous successful events which were held in the Netherlands and in Vietnam, we are convinced that the bar has been set, and it is our responsibility to meet the challenge, to rise to the occasion, and to continue the work which has been done in the Netherlands and in Vietnam. The participation of countries, organizations, farmers, scientists, and other partners, all of whom are keen to see concrete actions in agriculture. I want to reiterate, concrete actions in agriculture in responding to the global challenges of food security and climate change. In pursuit of food security, we need to see climate-responsive farming practices being supported in policy and ensure they receive the necessary financial and technical backing. We should see action that translate into new ways to ensure food security. There is no doubt that through the previous conferences and the development of a science stream, we have started to build an international movement around climate-smart agriculture. We must now take the next step, and I hope that this Johannesburg conference is remembered as the event which turned this informal process into something more structured. The event which brought us together, the event it must be remembered as the event which turned ideas into action. We are all here very aware of the many challenges facing agriculture, food security, and climate change. We know that already there are millions of hungry people around the world, including in South Africa. South Africa has food security as a country, but more than 20 million South Africans go to bed without a proper nutritious meal every day. We cannot say that we are food secure as a country if we have 20 million people who go to bed hungry. We also know that climate change is going to make food production even more difficult in the future. So we cannot continue as if it is business as usual. We have to add to this the fact that the global population is set to grow in the future, mostly in the developing world, and if we do not do something different, even more people will go hungry. In short, we have a looming crisis for which agriculture, in its broadest sense, bears the responsibility of preventing any such disaster. Agriculture is therefore bound to respond to these environmental and social pressures. To start with, we must produce more food. We must make nutritious food accessible to all. Drawing on science and new technologies, we must increase the output of each and every hectare that is suitable for agriculture. We must protect prime agricultural land. We are losing prime agricultural land to mining and other industries. We have seen significant productivity gains over the last few decades. We must build on these. We must always ensure that we build in a sustainable manner. Food security must be a determinant in all planning and policy decisions. Secondly, agriculture must ensure that it does not contribute to further climate change. At the moment, agriculture and agro-processing are estimated to produce up to 30% of all greenhouse gases. So we are in part the makers of our own problems. We have to find different ways to farm, sharing, encouraging and supporting practices with reduced energy inputs and less harm to the environment. And finally, we need to assist farmers to become more resilient in the face of current and future changes. In weather patterns and extreme weather events, we need to find resolutions. There is a good science available. There is information available. And the numerous programs and projects which we are showing the value of doing things differently has to be popularized. We must learn from and promote those policies and practices which make farmers less vulnerable. We need to include practices like irrigation schemes, support for smallholder farmers, and crop diversification amongst others to our list. These objectives are captured in the term climate smart agriculture. We need to leave Johannesburg with a common understanding of what climate smart agriculture is. The FAO has described climate smart agriculture as integrating the three elements of increased food production, reduced emissions or mitigation, and increased resilience or adaptation. What is new is the understanding that these cannot be tackled in isolation. They require an integrated approach that seeks to achieve all three simultaneously. I trust delegates to the conference will explore the complex interface between these three elements. I trust that delegates will advise us on how best to find a unified approach. Given the international interest, I think we can say that the concept of climate smart agriculture seems to have found widespread support. If we want to make an impact on the way in which we do our business in future, we are going to need a very structured and organized approach. We need to retain the momentum that we have built. We cannot have a stop-start approach to our work. When we leave here at the end of conference, we need a very decisive roadmap for all delegates. South Africa subscribes to the benefits of agroecological approaches to agriculture. Climate Change Response Plan is a national plan from our country which invokes every sector to consider steps to mitigate and adapt to climate change within the framework of the National Development Plan. I am pleased to record that our smallholder farmers has just delivered a consignment of 140 tons of maize to the World Food Programme in Lesotho, confirming the viability of these family-owned farms. Now, you may not understand the statement, but 2013 is the 100th or the centenary of the 1913 Land Act in our country. The 1913 Land Act was the act which saw the majority of black people in South Africa dispossessed of their land. The black, very competent farming class was totally devastated since 1913. So from 1913 until 2013, black farmers and our land reform processes have never been successful. So for the first time in 100 years, smallholder farmers have been able to export good quality beans and maize through the World Food Programme to Lesotho. And this is a first for South Africa in 100 years. And I think that deserves a round of applause. The wide gap between our commercial farmers and smallholder farmers in South Africa has to be narrowed. The challenges of inequality, unemployment, and inefficiencies, those challenges have to be addressed, not only in South Africa, but also in Africa and other developing countries. Our imperative is to focus on why we are doing certain things. We must challenge poverty and hunger. We cannot have a roadmap which does not address poverty and hunger. The burdens of hunger and food insecurity are felt most acutely by women and children. Ambassador Sheila Sisulu, who worked for the World Food Programme, has joined my team. We've had a very good team putting this conference together. To the chairperson of the Agricultural Research Council, Mr. Jonathan Godden, and the CEO of the Agricultural Research Council, as well as the Director General of the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries in South Africa, I'd like to thank you graciously, humbly, and kindly. You have worked hard and you have really served the entire group here today very well. I would implore you to keep up the standard, because the standard you set in Vietnam and in the Netherlands was very high. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased to welcome you to the land of South Africa. I'm very pleased to welcome you to the land of Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma. I am very pleased to welcome you to the land of Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. And as our President Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela says to us every time we visit him, I am not ill, I am only old. I am getting old, I am not ill. So before we are old, we have to put climate-smart agriculture on the global agenda. Let me thank the government of the Netherlands, the government of the United States of America, the World Bank, the government of Vietnam, and all delegates present for your efforts. All your efforts are held in high regard. I thank you all, and I have the humblest opportunity to declare this conference open. Ke a leboga, Nkosi kakhulu.
Yes, I you they have somebody, you they talk. Yes, I you they